Hi, I'm Gerry Savage, and welcome to The Savage Edge. So last week we spoke about something that was pretty profound in my book. It's finding your purpose, and when you find your purpose, you can discern your destiny. And discerning destiny is really important because if you discern your destiny, you find your life's work. And your job isn't really a job anymore. It's what you are destined to do. And it's how you can make a difference in your life and the life of others. But now, let's take it a step beyond that, because you don't just discern your destiny and say, okay, I've arrived. That's not how it happens. So you do a lot of soul searching, and things may change and adapt over time, for sure. But if you really internalize and discern your destiny, if you are living with purpose to get to that point, then there are things that are going to happen along the way. So it's like you just don't wake up one morning and say, okay, I've arrived. I have financial freedom. I can go do this. I can go do that. This doesn't happen that way. So for most of us in life, we have jobs, right? And the job becomes a means to an end once you discover what your purpose is. Now, years ago, I was thinking about it today. When I first got out of the Marine Corps, I was selling cars at Forest City Chevrolet in Portland, Maine. It was a Chevrolet Saab dealership. And so right next to Portland was a town called Westbrook. And Westbrook was a mill town, paper mill. And people used to work in the paper mill for like 40 years. And they would save up, they would buy their cars. And I met so many people that were just about to retire. They would come in and buy their car because they were retiring. And that's great. And I'm not putting those people down at all. God bless them. I mean, they were able to work in a factory for 40 years. And all they thought about every day was retirement. Well, you may be thinking about, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, somebody who wants to make a difference in the lives of others and in your life, that you've got this dream that has now become your purpose. But you've got to get there, and there's steps to get there. It's not like, hey, I'm going to climb the ladder at my job, and I'm going to get to the next level and get to the next level, and then you finally get there and go, I've arrived, and I'm making all kinds of money. And, I like what Tony Robbins said one time in a program years ago. He goes, now you get to drive to your problems in style because you made a lot of money. So it's not about the money. But during the course of your lifetime and getting to the place where you are actually discerning your destiny and fulfilling your life's purpose, you're going to have jobs. You're going to have things to do. And those things are a means to an end. Now, sometimes things get in the way, and it gets really hard to do the activities that we know we must do on a daily basis in order to achieve what we need to achieve on that path. In other words, yeah, it might be the next level in a career right now. It might be the next promotion. Still a means to an end. That's not what you're going to be doing for the next, 20 years, 30 years. I met a young gentleman a few weeks ago from a medical device company when I was at Content Crib up in Portland, Maine, and he was asking me, about moving to another job, or, should he wait and move into this other position? And the conversation went to exactly what we just discussed. He didn't want either of those things long term, but he needed those in order to get to where he wanted to be to fulfill his dream. And so when you're thinking about decisions short term, think about how they're going to affect you long term. Now, how does this all lead into procrastination, or not doing the things that we need to do on a regular basis? Well, because it's not what we want to do long term, we find it sometimes hard to do those things. And I can tell you right now that I've at times found it very difficult. You forget what it is that you really want. and you can get caught up in the daily grind and you're doing well. And then you get to a point where you're really tired. You don't want to do it anymore. You know why? Because you forgot what your purpose was. If you keep your purpose in a line with what you're doing on a daily basis, those things that you really don't like to do, you'll do them. You'll do them because they're going to serve a higher cause, a higher purpose, right? So I'd love you to think about that as you go through next week, and think about what it is that you're doing and take an inventory. You're in a sales career, and some of you are just starting your sales career. Some of you may have gone to the medical device academy, a medical sales academy, and other places. And that's great. But even then, if you're just starting out in sales, think about, dream. Where would you like to be in 5 years, in 10 years, right? And start putting that into context, because that's going to help you drive your decisions in your early career, especially, right? If you don't have a dream, you'll never be able to make a dream come true. That's for sure. And if you don't dream, the dreams will never turn into a reality. They'll never turn into something that's actually going to happen in your life. So you can't stop dreaming. So as you begin your career, if you're just starting it out, then put it into perspective and just kind of think about, where do I want to be 5 years from now? Where do I want to be 10 years from now? I used to do that when I was driving around northern Maine as a sales rep for a medical device company years ago, and I started asking questions. And we said this before on the last podcast, you got to start asking better questions to discern your destiny. Well, when you're just starting out and you're trying to figure all that out, those questions are really important, because if you're not asking those questions, you do end up on that hamster wheel. I'm going to guarantee it. You're going to be searching for the next level in your career, the next promotion, the next quota. You're chasing it every year, all the time. And then at that point, it becomes mundane and life becomes mundane. And you don't want that to happen. Oh, I went on 2 trips this year. Oh, I earned a trip here. I earned a trip there. That's all great. But that's not your destiny. Those are wonderful destinations to go with your family or your wife or your children, significant other. Those are all great. I've earned a ton of those and have had a fantastic time. But we can't forget that those are just stops along the way. Those are all just stops along the way. One thing that you need to do to get rid of procrastination in your daily life is to think about the bigger picture. And I dare say that if there's something that you're not doing, there's a consequence involved with that. So there's a consequence. So there are rewards and consequences with everything. And so the way I like to look at this is, and then this is probably not a great analogy, but a cigarette smoker. And I'm not trying to put down those of you that are still smoking cigarettes, but, we know that cigarettes cause cancer, right? Or most of us believe that. But, cancer is something that somebody else gets and it's out there in the future. So it's not touching you, immediately, right? If you eat a ton of chocolate, we know what happens, right? Although some chocolate in small quantities is good for you. So where I'm going with this is that those things, those consequences that you might face later, unless you can bring them right here, right now, like they were happening right now, then it's going to be easy to put something off. Do it till tomorrow. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it first thing in the morning, right? And then you never do it. I'll do it, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it the next day, right? But you never get it done. And then that's a vicious cycle. And then, wow, Could you lose the promotion? Could you miss the quota? Could you lose your job because of it? Right? So how do we fix that? Well, if you think about it, what's the consequence for not hitting your number? What's the consequence for not doing things that you need to do? If you ask that question and you know what those are, then you have to think about, well, what will it feel like if that happened to me right now? Now, bear with me on this, right? So you have to trick your mind. You have to play a trick on your mind because all your mind is doing is trying to protect you, right? So, and take the easiest way out. So, as John F. Kennedy said, I love to say this: we do the things that are hard because they are hard, right? And that's why that's why he wanted to send us to the moon, and we did. We got there, right? But same thing with our daily lives and our careers. We got to do the things that are hard because they are hard. And what are the consequences again if we don't get those things done? If we don't get those things done, are we going to be prepared to face those consequences? So what I like to do is sit there sometimes and think about, what is it that I really wanted to do with my life, and what it felt like. I put myself right there. It's kind of like putting yourself in a new car in the dealership, right? It's kind of like putting yourself in the place that you really want to be, smelling the air. Like I'm out at the farm right now. When I'm outside, I'm smelling the air. I'm looking at the hay. I'm looking at the horses in a row down there, sticking their heads out of the stalls. And, so I'm taking that all in. I'm like, oh, this is wonderful, right? Well, what if I wasn't able to do that tomorrow? What if because I didn't do the things that I needed to do today or the day before or a week or 2 weeks ago, I put off. And because of that, I felt consequences. And part of the consequence for me is that I couldn't be here right now, right? I couldn't be here with you. And so when you start thinking about what it is that you really want to do in life, and you're in your regular job today, and you're aspiring to get there, not just to climb the ladder, but using it as a stepping stone and using it as a vehicle, a means to an end to get where you want to be. Make sure, even though you don't like to do those things sometimes, that you do them, and put yourself in a place that you really feel the consequence, that if you didn't do it, what would it mean? And I heard a program one time where they actually did like a Charles Dickens approach, where the visit from the three ghosts, right? And what would happen if, like Ebenezer Scrooge, you didn't treat people well, you were a miser, you just weren't a good person, and then all of a sudden at the end of your life, everybody hates you because of what you ended up like, and now you get a chance to go back and see that. And as you're seeing that, it's killing you, right? So right now, what does it mean if you don't hit the numbers? What does it mean if you don't treat people with respect? What does it mean if you don't walk with integrity? And then down the road, people are going, oh my God, I don't even want to be around that person. And how do you feel, right? So you have to try to put yourself into the future you, bearing the consequences of not taking the action. So I would urge you to sit there and fantasize and think about that, and then do the same thing. Say, well, what happens if I take all these actions now? I don't like to make all these calls. I don't like to make cold calls. I definitely don't like to do that. I definitely don't like to drive 100 miles today to go to that. I can put that off, or I can put that Zoom call or that meeting off till tomorrow. So, but what happens now if you do all those things? You just put the blinders on and you just do it. And then you achieve what you needed to achieve. And then, wow, then you put yourself in the position where you're enjoying the fruits of your labor, the rewards, right? How does that feel? So if you put that into your future self, how does that feel, right? Versus the consequences of not doing it. And keep those consequences close to you, because they're going to give you that little push, that consequence on your shoulder here is, let's do it. Let's get this done so that you can reap the benefits and reap the rewards. And I think if you do that and you think about those things, yes, the horses agree, you are going to do the activities that you need to do on a regular basis to get to where you want to be in your life. Procrastination, just like imposter syndrome we talked about a few weeks ago, put procrastination in the garage. As President Kennedy said, for those of you that are old enough, and even those of you that aren't, look it up on YouTube when he did the speech about going to the moon. We do the things that are hard because they are hard. And that's what you've got to do today and tomorrow. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here either, but it's just a fact, right? Nothing good in life comes easy. Let's just face it. Nothing good in life really comes easy. But those things, those good things that do come to you in life after you've earned them, oh my God, you appreciate them so much. You appreciate them so much. And, those things then allow you to discern that destiny we talked about, to leave that legacy, to give back, to willingly give back to others who are facing the same things that you faced, all the negative things, all the things that were hard you didn't want to do, right? All the trials and tribulations that you get through, right? And I would also say to you, you've already been through a million of those. Yes, you have. I don't care whether you've been in your sales or business career for a long time. You've had those situations in your life. So the other thing that you can do is when you procrastinate and you're not doing those things, you got to think about the things that you did, that you made it through, and how did you feel after that? I said a while ago on another program that when I was in the Marine Corps, I was on a force march. And, down at Parris Island, they would call this a Black Flag Day because of the wet bulb global temperature, how they figured it out. Nobody should have been doing major activity, but we were Marines on a force march. And I'll tell you, I felt like quitting that day. I felt like quitting. But I had a Marine beside me, who knew I wasn't feeling well, that just pushed me along. I had good old Sergeant Hodges, and I'll never forget his name as long as I live, and I'll never forget his face. He said, "Come on, Savage, you're not quitting." And I walked, that force march is like walking, it's like almost like a double time step. It's not like a regular marching step, and you're doing it with full pack, with your rifle and everything else. And Hodges wouldn't let me quit. So why am I telling you that story? Not to say, hey, look at me. I'm telling you that because when I find out things that are really hard in my life, things that I don't want to do, I think back to Sergeant Hodges, who wouldn't let me quit. And the fact that I went through and I made it. And when I made it, I felt damn good about myself for having made it through that terrible hot day with full pack, 10-mile force march. And I'm going to tell you, I still think about that. And guys, I don't want to date myself, but it's well over 30 years. And I remember it like it was yesterday. So I want to leave you with that. I'm so excited to be doing these things with you. And I really enjoy the feedback that you guys are giving me on the Savage Edge podcast. And I hope it's really resonating with you. I've been in sales and leadership for a long time. I've been in sales pretty much all my life, and giving back to you, and maybe a pearl here and a pearl there, that you can use really will fulfill my part of my destiny, because if I can give back to you in that small way. And, as I've said before, I don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. Don't let anybody fool you into thinking that they have all the answers either, because nobody does. But everybody has something to offer. You've got something to offer. I've got something to offer. We put our heads together and we walk through this life and we do it in a way that helps each other. Then, well, we're all gonna do exactly what it is we're destined to do in this life. So I hope you've enjoyed this. It's a beautiful evening here for those that are seeing this on YouTube. And I'm Gerry Savage. Until next time, this is The Savage Edge.